the moment my daughter-in-law announced I had need to pay $2,100 monthly rent for the spare bedroom. I knew something inside me shattered. Not my heart that had been breaking piece by piece for months. This was different. This was the sound of my last shred of trust crumbling into dust. "Consider it a friends and family discount, Margaret," Ashley said, sliding a rental contract across the Easter brunch table like she was doing me a favor. 20. 3 relatives sat frozen around us, forks suspended midway to their mouths, watching my humiliation unfold between the glazed ham and spring salad. "Before you judge me for what happened next, before you shake your head at how I handled things, let me share something. When you are 72 years old, when you have buried your husband of 45 years, when your own children look at you like you are a burden rather than their mother, you learn that dignity isn't given, it is taken. And that Easter Sunday, I decided to take mine back. But first, I need you to understand how a woman who spent decades caring for others ended up being called a financial drain at her own family's holiday table. I need you to understand why I did what I did and why I would do it again. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Like your years of sacrifice meant nothing? Drop a comment below and let me know I am not alone. And please, subscribe to hear more stories about standing up for yourself when the world tries to push you down. My name is Margaret Ruth Sinclair. Though for 45 years I was Maggie Sinclair to everyone who mattered. 3 years ago, my world ended when Tom's lungs finally gave out. The doctors blamed it on asbestos exposure from his years in construction. All those renovation jobs in old buildings before anyone knew better. He had built half the schools in our county, created safe spaces for thousands of children to learn and grow. In the end, those same buildings stole him from me. We would met at a church social in 1976. I was fresh out of nursing school, working pediatric ward at St. Mary's Hospital. Tom was the contractor's son who stammered through asking me to dance, then spent the whole evening making me laugh with stories about construction mishaps. 6 months later, we were married in that same church. I wore my mother's dress, altered to fit. Tom cried when he saw me walking down the aisle. 45 years we built our life together, nothing elaborate, but rock. Solid just like the foundations Tom poured. I worked as a pediatric nurse until our first son, David, arrived in 1980. Then came the twins, Jennifer and Julie. In 1983, the hospital offered to hold my position. But Tom's business was growing, and we both believed children needed their mother home. It wasn't a sacrifice then. It was a choice I made with my whole heart. I never returned to nursing. Instead, I became the ultimate support system. I managed Tom's office, answered phones, scheduled jobs, kept the books when his secretary quit. I raised our children, volunteered at their schools, led the PTA, organized fundraisers. I turned our modest 3-bedroom ranch into a warm haven where neighborhood kids gathered, where Tom's crew knew they could get a hot meal after a long day, where family meant everything. The house itself was our crown jewel. We bought it in 1979, a foreclosure in desperate need of Tom's magic touch. Every weekend for 2 years, we worked together, Tom handling construction while I painted, tiled, chose fixtures. By the time we finished, it had transformed from an eyesore into the prettiest home on Maple Avenue. "This is our security," Tom said, the day we paid off the mortgage in 2005. "Whatever happens, you will always have this." The diagnosis came in 2018, mesothelioma, aggressive, and already advanced. We fought with everything we had: chemotherapy, radiation, experimental treatments. I became his nurse again. All those dormant skills rushing back, but love couldn't stop cancer. Experience couldn't halt its spread. Tom died on a Tuesday morning in March, holding my hand, whispering that I had been his whole world. After the funeral, I tried. God knows I tried, but the house echoed with his absence. I would catch myself setting 2 coffee cups out each morning, cooking his favorite pot roast on Sundays, listening for his truck in the driveway at 5:30. The silence was deafening, the loneliness suffocating. When I found myself talking to his empty recliner one evening, Having a full conversation about my day, I knew I was in trouble. David was the one who suggested I move in with them. "Just temporarily, Mom," he had said. "Those brown eyes so like his father's. Ashley and I have plenty of room. The kids miss you. It will be good for everyone." Ashley had nodded enthusiastically, talking about how wonderful it would be to have Live in help with 8-year-old Tyler and 6-year-old Emma. "Like having family close again," she had said. Her smile bright and seemingly genuine. I believed them. Why wouldn't I? David was my son, the boy I had nursed through pneumonia, cheered at Little League games, supported through engineering school. I had even liked Ashley when they had dated, appreciated how she had seemed to adore my son. Their wedding was in our backyard, under the apple tree Tom had planted for our 10th anniversary, so I rented a storage unit for most of our furniture, kept only what would fit in their guest room. The house on Maple Avenue sat empty. I couldn't bear to sell it, not yet. Too many memories lived in those walls. David said we would figure out what to do with it later. When I was ready, I should have paid attention to how quickly he had agreed to let it sit vacant. The first 6 months were lovely. I had purpose again, cooking Sunday dinners, helping with homework, feeling needed. Ashley would chat with me over morning coffee, asking about my life with Tom, seeming genuinely interested. She would compliment my recipes, ask for cooking tips, include me in their social gatherings. I thought I had found my place. But slowly, insidiously, things shifted. It started with small comments. "Oh, Margaret's watching her shows again," Ashley would say when friends visited, as if my presence in the living room was an oddity. Then came observations about utility bills. "The water usage has really gone up," she would mention, eyeing me as I loaded the dishwasher. "Electricity, too, must be all those loads of laundry." I started keeping track of my usage, limiting showers, washing clothes only when necessary. But the comments continued. She would sigh when she saw me in the kitchen, as if my presence exhausted her. Conversations that used to flow became stilted. I found myself spending more time in my room, trying to be less visible, less of a burden. David grew distant too. My son, who used to call me during lunch breaks just to chat, now barely made eye contact. When Ashley complained about the situation, he would stare at his phone, silent. I wanted to shake him, to demand he remember who had sat up with him through chicken pox, who had driven to every science fair, who had celebrated every achievement. But I saw the defeat in his shoulders, recognized a man who had given up fighting. The real shift began 18 months ago when Ashley got promoted to regional sales director at her pharmaceutical company. The money changed her, or maybe just revealed who she had always been. Designer clothes replaced her simple wardrobe. She hired decorators, personal shoppers, a life coach. Every room in their house got a makeover, except mine, which remained pointedly shabby, outdated, a visual reminder of my unwelcome presence. "Your mother's becoming a liability," I would overheard her tell David one night. I would come downstairs for water and frozen outside their bedroom door. "She just sits here, contributing nothing, taking up space. We need to start thinking about our future, our retirement. We cannot keep bleeding money on someone who refuses to take responsibility for herself." "She is my mom," David had said weakly. "And I am your wife, your family now. We have our own kids to think about. College funds, retirement savings. Do you know how much that room could rent for? At least $2,000 a month. That is $24,000 a year we are losing, bleeding money." I bought my own groceries, paid for my medications, never asked for a dime. But that didn't fit Ashley's narrative. To her, I was a drain, a problem to be solved, an old woman who had outlived her usefulness. My daughters tried to stay neutral. Jennifer lived in Chicago, working as a financial analyst, recently engaged. Julie was in Portland, teaching special education, struggling with her own divorce. They called regularly, but had learned to deflect when I mentioned feeling unwelcome. "At least you are not alone," Jennifer would say. "Ashley means well," Julie would add. They didn't want to get involved. didn't want to rock the boat. I understood. Even as it broke my heart, the small cruelties accumulated. Ashley started forgetting to tell me about family dinners until they were already eating. "Oh, we thought you were napping," she would say innocently. She would plan outings with the children while I was at doctor appointments. Such bad timing, she would coo when I returned to an empty house. She began limiting my time with Tyler and Emma. "They need to focus on homework," she would say, ushering them away when they tried to visit me. "Grammy's tired. Let her rest." But I wasn't tired. I was being erased, slowly but deliberately, from the family I had helped create. One evening, I found Ashley on her laptop in the dining room, browsing websites. She slammed it shut when I entered, but not before I saw the screen Golden Sunset Homes, premier assisted living for discerning families. "Research for work," she said quickly, gathering her things. But I had seen the search terms: Medicare beds available and expedited placement procedures. My neighbor from the old neighborhood, Dorothy Chen, noticed the change in me when we met for lunch one day. We had been friends for 25 years, shared recipes and gossip over the fence Tom had built between our yards. "You look thin, Maggie, and sad. Is everything all right?" What could I say? That my son's wife wanted me gone, that I felt like a ghost in what should have been my sanctuary. I smiled and lied. Just missing Tom, but Dorothy wasn't fooled. She had known us too long, seen too much. "You know where I am if you need anything," she said, squeezing my hand. "Tom would want someone looking out for you." The house remodel continued through the fall and winter. Ashley put in a pool, citing the children's need for exercise. A complete kitchen renovation followed: granite countertops, professional-grade appliances, custom cabinets. The basement became a home theater. Each improvement felt like another nail in my coffin. Another reason they didn't need my contributions. One day, showing off the renovations to her book club, I heard Ashley say something that chilled me to the bone. "This is my house now. I have made it what it should have been all along. Sometimes you have to clear out the old to make room for the new." My house, clear out the old. The words echoed in my head that night as I looked at my wedding photo. Harold smiled back at me, frozen in time, unaware of what would become of his Maggie. Then came that horrible Easter dinner, and everything exploded. I had spent 2 days helping prepare the meal, despite Ashley's constant corrections and sighs. I made Tom's mother's recipes, her famous honey, glazed ham, the sweet potato casserole everyone loved, the dinner rolls that took 6 hours but were worth every minute. I wanted to contribute, to prove I still had value beyond the rent. I wasn't paying, the house filled with relatives, David's cousins, Ashley's sisters, their families. 23 people gathered around the extended dining table. I thought maybe, surrounded by family, things would feel normal again. I was wrong. The meal started pleasantly enough. Compliments on the food, catching up on family news, children's laughter from the kids' table. Then Ashley clinked her fork against her glass, standing to make an announcement. "Before we enjoy this wonderful meal," she said, smiling that practiced smile that never reached her eyes, "David and I have some family business to address." My stomach dropped. Family business discussions at holiday dinners never ended well. "As you all know, we have been generously hosting David's mother for several years now," Ashley continued. Several relatives shifted uncomfortably. The room temperature seemed to drop. "While we have been happy to help during her time of need, the financial reality is that we can no longer afford to provide free housing." Free housing. In that moment, those 2 words rewrote history. All the meals I had cooked, the children I had cared for, the love I had poured into their family erased. I was just a squatter in their narrative. "Starting May 1st, we will be charging $2,100 monthly rent for the guest room," Ashley announced as if discussing the weather. "This is actually below market rate for this area. We are being more than fair." The silence was deafening. Tom's sister Ruth dropped her fork. David's cousin Mark whistled low, but nobody spoke up. Nobody defended me. They all just stared. watching my humiliation unfold like dinner theater. If that is not feasible, Ashley added, her voice dripping with false concern, we have researched several assisted living facilities that accept Medicare. Golden Sunset Homes has an opening, smaller rooms of course, but adequate for someone in Margaret's situation. Someone in Margaret's situation, not mom, not family. I was just a situation to be managed, a problem to be solved. I found my voice, though it came out smaller than intended. Ashley, I don't think Easter dinner is the appropriate. When else would we discuss it? She cut me off. Everyone's here. They should know the situation, especially if they want to help with alternative arrangements. Alternative arrangements like I was old furniture being donated to charity. Ruth finally spoke up. Ashley, surely this can wait. No, it cannot. Ashley's mask slipped slightly, showing irritation beneath. We have waited 3 years. 3 years of supporting someone who contributes nothing. Do you know what this room could rent for? What we are sacrificing. I looked at David, my baby boy, the child I would sung to sleep 1,000 nights. He studied his plate, like it held the secrets of the universe. No defense, no protest, just silence. David, I said softly, don't you have something to say? He lifted his head briefly, and I saw shame in his eyes. But he just mumbled, Mom, maybe we should discuss this later. No, Ashley snapped. We are discussing it now. I have prepared a rental agreement. She pulled out papers from beneath her plate. She had planned this ambush down to the staging. $2,100 a month is more than fair for a private room, bathroom access, and kitchen privileges. Below market rate, actually, I checked comparable listings. Kitchen privileges, in the home where I had cooked thousands of meals, where I would taught David to make cookies, where I had hosted every birthday, every holiday, every celebration that mattered. You have 2 weeks to decide, Ashley continued. Pay rent or find alternative arrangements. I think that is generous considering. Considering what? My 45 years of marriage? My 3 children raised? My husband's death? What exactly was she considering? Mark's wife, Susan, tried to intervene. This seems harsh. Harsh. Ashley's laugh was sharp as breaking glass. Harsh is being expected to subsidize someone indefinitely. Harsh is watching your children's college funds diminish because of someone else's poor planning. Poor planning. As if I had planned for Tom to die. As if I had chosen grief and loneliness and the need for family support. I buy my own groceries, I said quietly. I pay for my medications. I have never asked you for money. The utilities you use, the space you occupy, the wear and tear on the house. Ashley pulled out her phone, scrolling. I have done the math. Your actual cost to our household is $3,200 monthly. We are giving you a $1,100 discount. She would spreadsheet my existence, calculated my worth down to the penny, and found me wanting. Little Emma, my granddaughter, tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mommy, why is Grammy crying? I hadn't realized I was. I touched my cheek, felt the wetness there. Ashley sighed dramatically. See? This is what I mean. The emotional manipulation. It is exhausting. That broke something in me. The tears stopped. In their place came something harder, colder. Excuse me, I said, standing. Sit down, Margaret. Ashley commanded. We are not finished. Yes, I said quietly. We are. I walked to my room, the guest room, as Ashley called it, and closed the door on their voices. Through the thin walls, I heard Ruth arguing, Susan's sharp questions, Mark's deeper tones trying to mediate. But no sound from David. His silence spoke volumes. I sat on my bed, looking at the photo of Tom on my nightstand. What do? I whispered. As if in answer, a memory surfaced. Tom teaching David to swing a hammer, patient and encouraging. The thing about building, he had said, is knowing which walls are load-bearing. You cannot just tear those down without consequences. The whole structure depends on them. I had been a load-bearing wall my entire adult life. For Tom, for our children, for this family. And now they wanted to demolish me because I no longer served their purposes. That is when I remembered the file box under my bed. Tom's meticulous records, everything organized and labeled. Paper is proof, he used to say. Always keep the proof. I pulled out the box, entered the combination, our anniversary date, and found the folder marked Maple Avenue inside. The deed to our house. Our names in official type, Thomas James Sinclair and Margaret Ruth Sinclair. And below that, a note in Tom's careful handwriting, Maggie. This is yours. Don't let anyone take it away. All my love, T. I pressed the paper to my chest, and for the first time in years, felt my spine straighten. They wanted to charge me rent. They wanted to warehouse me like excess furniture. Fine. But they had no idea what they had just awakened. I didn't return to dinner. Later, David knocked softly. Mom, I brought you a plate. I opened the door, saw his face, my boy, looking lost and ashamed. The ham I had glazed with such care sat cooling on the china we had received as wedding gifts. How could you let her speak to me that way? I asked. He set the plate on my dresser, wouldn't meet my eyes. She is stressed about money. The promotion came with more responsibilities. She doesn't mean she meant every word. I studied his face, saw Tom's jaw, my eyes, but none of our strength. What happened to you, Michael, Mom? Just think about the rental agreement. Okay? It is not that much, and you have Dad's pension. Social Security, get out. Mom, get out of my room. He left, shoulders slumped. I looked at the plate he would brought: turkey, stuffing, all the fixings, food I had helped prepare in the kitchen where I now needed privileges. I threw it in the trash. That night, I lay awake thinking about Tom's words. Documentation is protection. But protection from what? He had never imagined I had need protection from our own son. The next morning, Easter Monday, while others hunted clearance candy, Ashley hunted for my signature. She appeared at 7 a.m. sharp, rental agreement in hand, smile bright as her whitened teeth. Sleep well. She didn't wait for an answer, spreading papers on my dresser. I have made this very simple. Standard lease terms. First month's rent. Due May 1st. Security deposit waived, family discount. Sign here, initial here. I read through the document, each line another twist of the knife. No overnight guests without landlord approval. No cooking after 8 p.m. No use of common areas during family time, defined as 5-9 p.m. weekdays, noon -10 p.m. weekends. Quiet hours from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. Limited laundry privileges, 2 loads per week maximum. This reads like a prison handbook, I said. This is standard tenant agreement. Ashley's smile never wavered. You have had a free ride for 3 years, Margaret. Time to adult up. Adult up. I had been an adult when she was still in diapers. I had raised 3 children, managed a household, held my husband's hand through chemotherapy. But to her, I was just an old woman who needed to learn responsibility. What if I refuse? Then you will need to vacate by May 1st. She pulled out her phone, showed me a moving company's website. I have already got quotes, very reasonable. They can have you packed and out in 3 hours. Does David know about these restrictions? David agrees with whatever's best for our family. She leaned against my doorframe, casual as a neighbor chatting over coffee. Look, Margaret, I am trying to help you maintain some dignity here. The alternative is less pleasant. Meaning Golden Sunset Homes has a lovely memory care unit, very secure, especially appropriate for seniors who show signs of confusion. Forgetfulness, leaving stoves on. That sort of thing. I hadn't left any stove on, but I understood the threat. Refuse the rent. Get painted as incompetent. Pay the rent, legitimize her claim to my money. Either way, she won. Or so she thought. I need time to review this with my attorney, I said. Her smile flickered. Attorney. Tom's friend, Walter Brennan. You remember Walter. He handled Tom's estate. That is not necessary. This is family business. No, I said, surprising myself with my firmness. This is a legal contract. I will have Walter review it and get back to you. Ashley left my room less confident than she had entered. Good. Let her wonder what else I might be reviewing with Walter. That afternoon, I made 2 phone calls. First, to Dorothy. Maggie. Dorothy's voice warmed my heart. I was just thinking about you. How was Easter? Terrible, I said, and told her everything. That witch, Dorothy's outrage was validating. How dare she? And at Easter dinner, in front of everyone. I need to ask you something, I said. Have you noticed anything unusual about my house? Cars there? Activity? Now that you mention it, yes. I see David's car there pretty regularly. Ashley's too. Sometimes there are other cars. People I don't recognize. I figured they were checking on the place for you, or planning what to do with it once they got rid of me. My second call was to Walter Brennan. At 78, he was still sharp as the legal briefs he had filed for 40 years. He had handled Tom's will, knew our financial situation, had been Tom's poker buddy for decades. Maggie Sinclair, he said warmly. To what do I owe the pleasure? I need your help, Walter, but probably not in the way you are thinking. I explained the situation: Ashley's rent demands, the humiliating restrictions, the threats of assisted living. His silence grew heavier with each detail. That is extortion, he said finally. Elder abuse, possibly attempted fraud if she is trying to force you into a position where you would have to sell assets. I want to run a title search on my house on Maple Avenue, I said, and I need you to check if anyone's been making inquiries about it. What makes you think they have? Call it intuition. Tom always said to trust my gut. Smart man, I heard typing. I can do that. I will also run a credit check, make sure nothing else unusual is happening. When can you come in tomorrow? I will clear my schedule. That night at dinner, I sat at the table like nothing had happened. Ashley seemed disconcerted by my calm. She had expected tears, arguments, capitulation. Instead, I passed the salad and asked Tyler about his school project. Don't get too comfortable, she said quietly, while the children cleared plates. May 1st is coming quickly. Yes, I agreed pleasantly. It is. David looked between us nervously. Good. Let him wonder what his mother was planning. The next day, Walter's findings confirmed my worst fears. There had been multiple title searches on my property in the last 6 months. 2 from real estate companies, 1 from a law firm he didn't recognize. More disturbing, someone had been opening credit cards in my name. 3 cards, 22,000 in debt total, Walter said, showing me the reports. All opened in the last 18 months. Did you apply for any credit cards? Of course not. My hand shook. I haven't applied for credit since Tom died. Then this is identity theft. Federal crime. Walter's face was grim. The purchases are all things you would never buy: electronics, designer goods, jewelry. Someone's been using your information. Ashley, I breathed, possibly. We will need proof. But Maggie, there is more. He pulled out another document. 6 months ago, someone tried to add Ashley Sinclair as co-owner of your Maple Avenue property. It failed only because the notary questioned the signature. The room spun while I had been cooking their dinners, caring for their children. They had been trying to steal my house. What do? We document everything. File police reports, build a case. Walter's eyes hardened, and you get out of that house today. But where your own house, Maggie, the one they have been trying to steal. Go home. Home, the word felt foreign after 3 years. But Walter was right. I had been so focused on being grateful for shelter that I had forgotten I owned a perfectly good house. What about Ashley's threats? The rental agreement. Let her try to enforce it. Let her try to evict an elderly woman from her son's home while living in fear of fraud charges. See how that plays in court. That evening, I packed quietly. Just essentials: clothes, medications, important papers, photos of Tom. I would come back for the rest later, maybe, or maybe I had leave it all behind. Physical reminders of my naive trust. David found me zipping my suitcase. "Mom, what are you doing?" "Taking responsibility for myself," I said calmly. "Isn't that what Ashley wanted? You cannot just leave." "Watch me, Mom, please. Let's talk about this. The rent thing, maybe we can negotiate. I turned to face him fully. "Your wife tried to steal my house." David opened credit cards in my name. $22,000 in fraudulent debt. "Still want to negotiate?" His face went white. That is impossible." "Is it? Or have you been too busy avoiding conflict to notice what she has been doing?" I picked up my suitcase. "I am going home, my actual home. The one your father left me, the one your wife has been circling like a vulture." "Mom." "Wait," but I was done waiting, done being understanding, done shrinking myself to fit into spaces where I wasn't wanted. I left that night while Ashley was at her book club. Let her come home to find me gone. Let her explain to the children why Grammy disappeared. Let her deal with the questions, the judgment, the inconvenient truth that she had driven away the woman who had helped raise her husband. My hands shook as I unlocked the door to Maple Avenue. 3 years of absence made the key feel foreign. But the house welcomed me back, familiar as my own heartbeat, dusty, musty, but mine. I spent that first night walking through rooms filled with memories. The kitchen where I would taught all 3 children to cook. The living room where we had hosted decades of Christmas mornings. The master bedroom where Tom had drawn his last breath, surrounded by love. This wasn't just a house. It was the museum of my life, and I would almost let them steal it. Dorothy appeared the next morning with coffee and fresh muffins. "Saw your car in the driveway. About time you came home. How did you, honey? I have been watching this house for 3 years, hoping you would come back. That woman dropping by, measuring rooms, taking photos. I knew something was wrong." "She was measuring rooms?" "Oh yes, heard her on the phone once, talking about potential and market value, and once we get the old lady situated." The violation felt fresh, sharp. They had been planning my removal like a renovation project. Gut the old to make room for the new. My phone rang constantly that first week. David, Ashley, the twins, all with variations of concern and outrage. I let them go to voicemail, needing space to think, to breathe, to remember who I was before I would let them diminish me. Walter called with updates. The credit card companies were investigating. The attempted property transfer was documented. We had enough for criminal charges. "Are you prepared for that?" he asked gently. "Prosecuting your own son?" Was I? David might not have forged my signature, but he would stood by while his wife plotted. He had chosen comfortable silence over protecting his mother. Was that forgivable? "They conspired to rob me," I said finally. "If they were strangers, would you ask that question?" "No," Walter admitted, "I wouldn't." "Then yes, I am prepared." Ashley appeared on my doorstep 3 days later, fury radiating from every designer, clad inch. "How dare you abandon your family?" she demanded. "My family abandoned me long ago," I replied, not opening the door fully. "I just finally noticed. We need to talk about the damage you have caused. David's a wreck. The children keep asking for you. You have disrupted our entire household." "Good." Her face contorted. "You selfish, I would choose your words carefully," I interrupted. "My attorney is documenting everything. Harassment charges can be added to fraud and identity theft." "You wouldn't dare. Try me." She backed away, but her parting shot hit its mark. "You will die alone in this house. No one will care. No one will even notice, maybe." But I had die with dignity in my own home, On my own terms. That was more than she had offered. David came that evening, alone. I watched through the window as he stood on my porch. My porch working up courage to knock. When I opened the door, he looked haggard. "Mom, please, we can work this out, can we? Are you here to apologize or negotiate?" Ashley made some mistakes. "Fraud isn't a mistake, David. It is a crime," he flinched. "She was trying to secure our future, with my money, with my house, with my credit. I didn't invite him in. Did you know?" His silence was answer enough. "You knew," I said, disappointment heavy as a stone. "You knew she was stealing from me, and you said nothing." I tried to stop her. "No, you avoided conflict. There is a difference." I studied my son, looking for traces of the boy who had once defended smaller kids from bullies. "Your father faced down death with more courage than you have shown in your entire marriage. That is not fair." "Fair?" I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Was it fair when Ashley called me a financial drain? Fair when she tried to steal my house? Fair when you sat silent as a coward while she humiliated me? Mom, please go home, David. While you still have one, Ashley's going to need a lawyer, and they are expensive." I closed the door on his protests, on his tears, on the son I had lost long before this moment. Sometimes love means letting go, even when it tears you apart. The investigation moved quickly after that. Detective Morrison, a kind woman near my daughter's age, took my statement with professional fury barely contained. "This is textbook elder abuse," she said, reviewing the evidence, the credit cards, the forgery attempts, the psychological manipulation. "We see it too often, usually with family members. What happens now? We arrest them. The DA will press charges. With this evidence, they are looking at serious time." Ashley was arrested at her office the following Tuesday. Local news picked it up. Pharmaceutical executive charged with elder abuse. Identity theft, her mugshot made the front page. Hair mussed. Makeup smeared, the perfect image shattered. David was arrested at home that evening. He didn't resist, didn't protest. When they led him away, he looked broken. I watched from my window, as Dorothy had once watched us, a witness to the dissolution of what had once been family. The twins called within hours, hysterical. "Mom, how could you?" Jennifer sobbed. "David's our brother." "David's a criminal," I said evenly. "He participated in defrauding your mother. But family doesn't steal. Family doesn't stand by while others abuse. Family protects each other." He failed that test. "Julie was worse. You are destroying everything, the kids. What about Tyler and Emma? What about them? They will learn that actions have consequences. That crime doesn't pay, that their grandmother isn't a doormat. You are being vindictive. I am being just." They hung up on me, both of them. Later, I blocked their numbers. If they couldn't see the difference between victim and criminal, I couldn't help them. The trial took 6 months. I testified, calm and clear, about the systematic financial and emotional abuse. Ashley's lawyer tried to paint me as confused, vindictive, jealous. But paper doesn't lie, and we had so much paper. The credit card statements showed purchases at stores I had never visited. The forged signatures were laughably bad under expert analysis. The pattern of emotional abuse was corroborated by witnesses who had attended that awful Easter dinner. She announced the rent demand at a holiday meal. I told the jury, in front of 23 family members. Like my humiliation was entertainment. Ashley sat at the defense table, designer suit impeccable, face a mask of wronged innocence. But I saw the fury beneath, the outrage that her perfect plan had failed. David testified for the prosecution, part of his plea deal. He painted himself as Ashley's victim, manipulated and controlled. Too weak to stand up to her. The jury saw through it. Everyone saw through it. "You never wondered why your mother suddenly had debt she couldn't explain?" the prosecutor asked. I trusted my wife. You never questioned the loan applications, the credit cards, the attempts to transfer property. Ashley handled our finances, but you benefited from the fraud, didn't you? The pool, the renovations, the lifestyle upgrades. David's mumbled admission sealed his fate. Ignorance might explain inaction, but willing blindness in the face of benefit was complicity. Ashley took the stand in her own defense. A catastrophic miscalculation. Her story unraveled under cross-examination. You claim Mrs. Sinclair was confused, forgetful. Can you provide any medical documentation of cognitive decline? Well, no, but you say she was a financial burden. Did she pay for her own groceries? Yes. But her own medications? Yes. Did she ever ask you for money? No, but the opportunity cost of housing the woman who raised your husband, who cared for your children, who cooked your meals. Ashley's composure cracked. She was supposed to be temporary. Ah, the prosecutor smiled. So you admit you planned to remove her from the beginning? That is not what How long after she moved in? Did you open the first credit card in her name? I don't. 6 months, according to records. 6 months after a grieving widow sought shelter with family. You began stealing her identity. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts for Ashley: identity theft, elder abuse, fraud, attempted grand larceny. Guilty of accomplice charges for David: lesser, but still significant. I sat in the gallery feeling nothing but hollow vindication. Tom's sister Ruth sat beside me, holding my hand as the verdicts were read. You did the right thing, she whispered. Had I? My son was going to prison. My daughters weren't speaking to me. My grandchildren were in foster care, while custody was determined. But I was free, safe, and in my own home. Yes, I decided. I had done the right thing. Sentencing came 3 weeks later. Ashley got 7 years, eligible for parole in 4. The judge called her actions a calculated campaign to defraud a vulnerable elder and a betrayal of family trust that shocks the conscience. David got 2 years, mostly suspended, with 18 months probation and restitution requirements. The judge acknowledged his lesser role but stated firmly that allowing abuse through silence is its own form of guilt. I watched them led away in handcuffs, my son in an orange jumpsuit that made him look young and lost. Ashley in designer clothes that no longer meant anything. She turned as they led her out, caught my eye, mouthed something that looked like "This isn't over." But it was. For me, it was finally over. The aftermath was harder than the trial. Tyler and Emma went to Ashley's sister initially, but that lasted exactly 3 weeks. She didn't want the burden either. Apparently it ran in the family. They ended up with Tom's cousin Marie in Pennsylvania, a good woman who actually loved children and understood that raising them was a privilege, not a problem. I sent cards, gifts, letters they might not read for years. Someday, when they were older, they would want to know their grandmother's side. I could wait. I had learned patience came easier when you weren't being actively destroyed. The restitution checks started arriving after Ashley went to prison. Small amounts from David's engineering salary, larger chunks from Ashley's prison work program wages. Every penny they had stolen would be returned. With interest. It would take decades, but justice has its own timeline. I found a therapist, Dr. Rachel Winters, who specialized in elder abuse survivors. You are not alone, she told me in our first session. Financial exploitation by family members is heartbreakingly common. Adult children who see aging parents as ATMs rather than humans. I feel stupid, I admitted. I should have seen it coming. You trusted your family. That is not stupidity, that is normal. They are the ones who violated that trust. Through therapy, I began to understand the patterns. How grief had made me vulnerable. How Ashley had identified and exploited that vulnerability. How David's weakness had enabled abuse. How my daughter's avoidance had isolated me further. You survived, Dr. Winters reminded me, and you fought back. That takes incredible strength. Slowly, I began to rebuild. Not my old life that was gone forever, but something new, maybe even better. I joined the senior center, not as a refugee, but as a woman with something to offer. I taught crafts, organized fundraisers, shared my story with others facing similar situations. Check your credit reports monthly, I would tell them. Document everything, trust but verify, and never ever let anyone make you feel worthless for needing help. They started calling me their warrior, their inspiration. We formed a support group, Silver Shields. We called ourselves women. And a few men who had survived family financial abuse, who had been called burdens and drains and problems, who had fought back and reclaimed their dignity. Dorothy became my constant companion. We started a weekly card game with other neighbors. Ruth visited often, bringing gossip and casseroles. I wasn't alone anymore, and these friendships chosen, not born into, felt more genuine than family ties ever had. On the anniversary of Tom's death, I visited his grave with flowers and updates. I did it, I told the headstone. Fought back, won the house, sent the criminals to jail. Even our son, my voice broke on that last part. I am sorry, Tom. I know you loved him, but he wasn't the man you raised anymore. The wind rustled through the cemetery trees, and I swear I felt Tom's presence. Not disappointed, just sad. We had raised our children right, given them every advantage. Sometimes that is not enough. The house is beautiful, I continued. I restored the garden. Remember those roses you helped me plant? They are thriving. Dorothy helps me maintain everything. I am okay. Better than okay. I am home. I arranged the flowers, daisies, his favorites, and sat on the bench we had installed when we had bought our plots. Planning for death while fully living, that was Tom's way. My phone buzzed. Jennifer. From a number I hadn't blocked. Mom. Can we talk? I almost declined, but something in her voice stopped me. I am listening. I have been thinking about what you said, about family protecting each other. A pause. I didn't protect you. Neither did Julie. We left you there, knowing you were unhappy, because it was easier than getting involved. Yes, I said simply. You did. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Her voice broke. I have been in therapy working through my own stuff. The divorce, Dad's death, everything. I realized I abandoned you just like Craig. Abandoned me, Craig. Her ex-husband. The parallel wasn't lost on me. I appreciate that, I said carefully. Could I visit? Just me. No pressure, no asking for anything. I miss my mom. I closed my eyes, felt Tom's wisdom flowing through me. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting, but it could mean new beginnings. Next weekend, I said. You can stay in your old room, really? Really, but Jennifer, this is a fresh start. The mother you knew, the one who absorbed every hurt without complaint. She is gone. I am different now. I understand. I think I need to meet her. The new you, maybe there was hope after all. That weekend, Jennifer arrived with flowers and nervous energy. She looked older, thinner, worn by her own struggles. We talked carefully at first, testing boundaries. She told me about her job, her broken engagement, her therapy. I told her about the trial. The garden, my new life. You seem stronger, she said, over coffee in my restored kitchen. I am. Turns out being nearly destroyed either kills you or clarifies you. I chose clarity. I am glad. And Mom, I am proud of you for fighting back, for refusing to disappear. Thank you. The words warmed me more than I expected. That means everything. We spent the weekend reconnecting, gardening, cooking Tom's recipes, looking through photo albums. Not trying to recreate the past, but building something new. When she left Sunday evening, we both had tears in our eyes. I love you, Mom, she said, hugging me tight. The new you and the old you, all of you. I love you too, sweetheart. Always have, always will. Julie came the following month. Alone, contrite. The twins had been showing behavioral problems since the divorce. Acting out, struggling. She was overwhelmed, exhausted, finally understanding what it meant to need family support and not have it. I should have listened, she said, watching my hands as I deadheaded roses. When you tried to tell me about Ashley, about feeling unwelcome, I didn't want to deal with it. No, I agreed. You didn't. Can you forgive me? I considered, while pruning a particularly aggressive branch I already have. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. Trust has to be rebuilt. I understand. I will do whatever it takes. Then help me with this garden. Your father always said, working the earth taught patience. We worked side by side in the sunshine, not talking much, rebuilding connection through shared labor. It was a start. Michael, I couldn't think of him as David anymore. That boy was gone, wrote from prison. Long letters full of self-pity and blame. Ashley had manipulated him, controlled him, made him participate. The system was unfair. I was cruel. He was the real victim. I returned every letter unopened. Some bridges, once burned, couldn't be rebuilt. Some choices couldn't be undone. Summer arrived with unexpected beauty. The pool Ashley had installed with my stolen money sat empty in their foreclosed house. They had lost it within months of the arrests, but my own backyard bloomed with Tom's roses, the vegetable garden I had restored, the fruit trees we had planted for each child's birth. I hosted a 4th of July barbecue for my Silver Shields group, 15 survivors of family financial abuse, laughing and sharing in my backyard. We would all been called burdens, drains, problems. Now we were friends, supporters, warriors together. To independence, Dorothy toasted, raising her beer in all its forms. To survival, added Ruth. To fighting back, said Martha, whose daughter had tried to get her declared incompetent to steal her pension. To second chances, I added, thinking of my daughter's tentative returns. We clinked glasses under the summer sky, women who had been knocked down but not out, who had learned that family was about behavior, not blood. As the fireworks began, I thought about Tom. He had loved the 4th of July, loved grilling burgers for the whole neighborhood, loved the simple pleasure of community and celebration. He would have loved seeing me here, surrounded by chosen family, strong and free. I did it, Tom, I whispered to the sky. I am home, and I was, not just in the physical house he had left me, but in myself. The woman who had been diminished, dismissed, nearly destroyed had found her spine, remembered her worth, refused to go quietly into anyone's good night. The next morning brought an unexpected call. Marie, Tom's cousin, who had taken the children. Margaret, I thought you should know Tyler's been asking about you. He is old enough to understand some of what happened. He wants to know why Grammy disappeared. My heart clenched. What did you tell him? The truth, age, appropriate version, that sometimes adults make bad choices that hurt people they love, that you didn't disappear. You had to protect yourself, that you love him and Emma very much. Thank you, I managed through tears. He wants to write to you. Is that okay? More than okay. Tyler's letter arrived a week later, careful printing on dinosaur stationery. Dear Grammy, Aunt Marie says you had to go away because of adult problems. I miss you. Emma misses you too, but she is too little to write. Are you okay? Do you still make those cookies with the chocolate chips? I remember you letting me help stir. Love, Tyler. I wrote back immediately, telling him about my garden, my new friends, the cookies I still made every Sunday. I sent photos of the house, the roses, the kitchen, where he had learned to stir cookie dough, building a bridge, word by word, memory by memory. Emma sent a drawing stick figures under a rainbow, labeled in Marie's handwriting. Grammy and me, I framed it. Hung it in the kitchen, where I could see it every morning. August brought a surprise, Ruth called, voice excited. You will never guess who I ran into at the grocery store. Ashley's mother. Oh, I tried to sound disinterested. But curiosity won. She looks terrible. Age 10 years, apparently, Ashley's father left her, said he couldn't handle the shame. She is living in a studio apartment, working as a cashier. She tried to defend Ashley to me, but even she seemed to know it was hopeless. I felt a flicker of something, not sympathy exactly, but recognition. Another woman paying for Ashley's choices, another life derailed by her greed. She asked about you, Ruth continued, said Ashley. Still blames you for everything. Writes these long letters about how you destroyed her life. I didn't destroy anything. I just refused to let her destroy me. That is what I told her. She didn't have much to say after that. September came with Jennifer's second visit. This time for a full week. We fell into easy rhythms, morning coffee on the porch, gardening in the afternoon, cooking dinner together, not trying to recreate the past but building something new. I have been thinking about Dad a lot, she said one evening, helping me can tomatoes from the garden, about what he would think of everything that happened. He would be heartbroken, I said. Honestly, he loved David Michael so much. Had such hopes for him, but he would be proud of you. I hope so, I know so. She sealed another jar, precise and careful like Tom had taught us. You honored everything he built, everything he believed in. You protected what he left you. More than that, I said, thinking of my hard-won independence, my chosen family, my refusal to disappear. I protected myself. That is what he really left me, the knowledge that I was worth protecting. October arrived with Ashley's first parole hearing. She was denied the board, cited her complete lack of remorse, her continued insistence that she was the victim. She would have to serve at least 2 more years before another hearing. Michael was released to a halfway house, his time shortened for good behavior and overcrowding. He sent another letter, this time to Jennifer, begging her to intercede. He wants to come home for Thanksgiving. She told me over the phone, says, he has nowhere else to go. He has exactly where he chose to be, I said firmly. Actions have consequences, I know. I told him no. It felt strange, being the one to protect you this time. That is what family does, I said, real family. Thanksgiving that year was everything the horrible Easter dinner hadn't been. Jennifer and Julie both came, along with Julie's twins. Ruth brought her family. Dorothy and her husband joined us. My Silver Shields friends, who had nowhere else to go, filled the remaining seats. We crowded around my dining table, the one Tom had built in his workshop, and shared what we were grateful for. Freedom, friendship, second chances, justice, survival. I am grateful for hard lessons, I said when my turn came. For learning that love without boundaries is just enabling. For discovering that chosen family can be stronger than blood. For finding out that it is never too late to fight back. Amen, Dorothy said, and we all raised our glasses. No one mentioned the empty chairs, the family members lost to greed and cowardice. This was about who was present, not who was absent. About building forward, not looking back. December brought unexpected news. Marie called to say she was planning a visit. She wanted the children to see where their father had grown up, to understand their family history beyond the headlines. Is that okay? She asked anxiously. I know it is complicated. It is more than okay, I assured her. They need to know they come from more than crime and betrayal. They need to know about Tom, about the family we were before. They came the week before Christmas. Tyler, now 11, tall and serious. Emma, 9, still sparkly despite everything. Marie, patient and kind, helping them navigate the complexity of loving people who had done terrible things. I showed them photo albums, their father as a baby, a boy, a young man full of promise, their parents' wedding in my backyard. Happier times before greed poisoned everything. Was my dad bad? Emma asked, studying a photo of David pushing her on a swing. No, sweetheart, he made bad choices. There is a difference. Will he come back? I don't know. That depends on whether he learns from his mistakes. Tyler was quieter, processing everything with those serious eyes, so like his father's finally. He asked, "Do you hate him?" I considered lying, making it easier, but children deserve truth, age, appropriate, but honest. I hate what he did. I hate that he chose money over family, silence over protection. But I don't hate him. I am just very, very disappointed. Mom says disappointment hurts worse than anger, Tyler said quietly. Smart boy, and he was right. They stayed 3 days. We baked cookies, decorated a small tree, made new memories to layer over the damaged ones. When they left, both children hugged me tight. Can we visit again? Emma asked. Anytime Aunt Marie can bring you. I love you, Grammy. I love you too. Sweetheart, always. Watching them drive away, I felt something shift inside, not quite forgiveness for their parents, but maybe the beginning of peace. The children were okay. They were loved. They had a chance. Christmas Eve found me at Tom's grave again, bringing his favorite coffee and a small wreath. The kids visited, I told him. Tyler looks just like David did at that age. Emma has your smile. They are good kids. Tom Marie's raising them right. The cemetery was peaceful, snow just beginning to fall. I sat on our bench, sipping my own coffee, feeling Tom's presence like a warm blanket. I survived, I said quietly. More than that, I thrived. Found my strength, built a new life, learned to protect myself. You always said I was tougher than I looked. Turns out you were right. Wind chimed through the memorial bells someone had hung nearby. I chose to take it as Tom's laughter, his pride, his love still present after all these years. Merry Christmas, my love. Until we meet again. I drove home through gentle snow to find my house lit up Dorothy, and Ruth had decorated while I was gone. Lights twinkled in every window, a wreath hung on the door. Inside, a fire crackled in the fireplace, and the smell of Ruth's famous cider filled the air. Surprise, my friends chorused as I entered. Nobody should be alone on Christmas Eve. I stood in my doorway of my house, filled with my chosen family, and felt tears slide down my cheeks. But these were good tears, healing tears, tears of gratitude and joy. Thank you, I managed. Thank you all, that is what family does, Dorothy said, pulling me into a hug. Real family, and she was right. This was real family people who showed up, who protected each other, who chose love over greed and connection over control. As we settled in for cider and cookies and conversation, I thought about Ashley in prison, Michael in his halfway house, the life they had thrown away for money that was never theirs. They had wanted my house so badly they had lost their home. They had valued my assets over my heart and ended up with neither. But I had gained everything. Freedom, dignity, true friendship, peace, the knowledge that I could survive anything, fight anyone, protect what mattered most. A toast, Ruth proposed, raising her mug. To Margaret Sinclair, who showed us all what courage looks like. To second acts, Dorothy added. To chosen family, said Martha. To home, I finished, and we all drank. Outside, snow continued to fall, blanketing the world in fresh white. Inside, warmth and laughter filled my home, truly mine. Finally, completely. I was Margaret Ruth Sinclair. I was 72 years old. I had survived betrayal, fought back against fraud, refused to disappear into anyone's convenient narrative. I had lost much but gained more. I was exactly where I belonged, and I was home. Did this story resonate with you? Have you faced family betrayal or financial abuse? You are not alone. Share your experience in the comments below. Sometimes the first step to healing is knowing others understand. And please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more stories about resilience, justice, and the courage to fight back. Remember, you are never too old to reclaim your power.